Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're taking a look at something very cool, and that is a fully maxed, perfect IV, level 50 Kingambit in the Master League. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Dracobound, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now, at level 50, Kingambit does get over 4,000 combat power, and this trainer is making an interesting choice. Instead of Snarl, they're opting for Metal Sound as the fast move, with the normal charge moves of Foul Play and Focus Blast. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at level 50 Kingambit for the first time in the Master League. Hopping into the first match, and it's a very bad lead awaiting Palkia as it stares down Florges. Immediate safe switch into the Tapu Lele. Florges decided to stay in this matchup and fire off a Trailblaze. Trailblaze is going to be no shielded. In comes Rhyperior, and Rhyperior will immediately get debuffed by Nature's Madness. Nature's Madness is actually going to be shielded Rhyperior, respecting a potential Focus Blast, but now Tapu Lele is going to get a Psyshock. The opponent's defense has already been lowered, so that it will do quite a lot of damage. Unfortunately, a lot of damage is exactly what Rhyperior is going to be able to do in return to this Palkia. Rhyperior going for the Breaking Swipe, and Breaking Swipe does get the attack drop. Another no shield from the Palkia. Rock Wrecker comes through, Palkia barely hanging on. Quick switch into Kingambit to get the Metal Sound farm down. Back in comes the Florges. Metal Sound, of course, is hitting for super effective damage. But this is a move that is built around energy generation, so even though it's super effective, it's not hitting particularly hard. Florges is going to be firing off a charge attack here. We will see the Trailblaze bait and the shield from Kingambit. Kingambit continues to farm, going for another foul play. This foul play is not going to be enough to pick up the knockout. Florges able to withstand that damage, and we will see a double shield now from Kingambit. Florges going for yet another Trailblaze in the back is going to be Dialga. And this game is going to come down to a catch. Kingambit farming up to the Focus Blast. We are going to see the foul play bait. The bait is successful. Farm it up. Here's the switch into Palkia and getting the game-winning catch. As that's the Roar of Time caught onto the Palkia. What a play. Kingambit now farms up to 100 energy and will now get to unleash Focus Blast. Focus Blast. Down goes Dialga, in comes Florges, but Florges does not have the energy needed. Kingambit, thanks to the overfarm, makes the foul play, knocks out the Florges, and clutches a roller coaster of a Game 1 win. Great lead in game number 2, leading into a Ho-Oh. Opponent is going to safe switch into Duskmane, and Duskmane is now going to be answered with Kingambit. Nothing Duskmane throws here is going to do a ton of damage to Kingambit. They are going to go for the hard-hitting Sunsteel Strike, but even that is pretty fine for Kingambit. Kingambit is already at back-to-back foul plays here. Foul play number 1, inflicting pretty significant damage, and now going to fire off foul play number 2. Going for an undercharge, but the opponent will actually commit the shield. They really want to try and wrestle away switch advantage here. They're now going to bait with the Outrage, but at this health range, even an Outrage would be enough to pick up the KO. We are going to see Kingambit firing off another foul play. Opponent choosing to let that through. In comes Ho-Oh, and Ho-Oh will not get the farm down before a foul play is reached. So foul play is going to apply just a little bit of chip damage. In comes Palkia, and Palkia will immediately be met with a Brave Bird. Brave Bird no shielded. Opponent is going to look to immediately switch. I love that play pattern, anticipating the opponent will never stay in when debuffed. So you can just queue up the switch into the Tapu Lele and get a 0-turn switch in. So that's a really nice heads-up play here from our battler. And now if you're Tapu Lele, shield once, farm all the way down, unleash Psyshocks at the opponent, and just generally make their life very uncomfortable. And there is the full farm down. The Ho-Oh, they threw their Brave Bird, so they do not have a lot of residual energy. They are still, even after 2 Incinerates, 1 away from their move. Quick switch into the Palkia just to force the Brave Bird, and then it's just 1 Astonish, and this game will be over. Opponent went for the Sacred Fire, in comes the Tapu Lele, and the opponent is going to resign the match. Familiar lead and an unwelcome one in the next match, leading once again into Florges. The safe switch into the Tapu Lele, this time opponent not staying into Trailblaze, but rather they're going to overfarm and let a Psyshock land, and now this is already approaching Aquatail range, so this is a pretty nice development. Full send on the Moonblast and a shield. Now the opponent going to be sending out Meloetta. Meloetta, of course, will be able to unleash Dazzling Gleams in this matchup, which will hit for quite a bit of damage. Nature's Madness is going to land. It does end up being a charge attack priority tie. Meloetta, Dazzling Gleam is going to connect. We are now going to see a switch out into Palkia. Palkia trying to get the Aqua Tail, not going to get there. Dazzling Gleam is survivable, but it will inflict a lot of damage. Dazzling Gleam is going to land. Can Palkia get the farm down here? Yes! The opponent falling just shy of the Psyshock. They're going to bring in their own Palkia. Wait, was that OG Palkia? It's Shadow Palkia. Oh my goodness, the flex from the opponent. You absolutely love to see it. In comes Kingambit, and we have a lot of resistant damage being fired back and forth. Farming up to the Focus Blast, baiting with the foul play, hoping this opponent is going to commit the shield. Opponent calls the bait ruthlessly, but there's the catch again. Now let's see, what did they throw? They went for a Fire Blast. That is a huge catch. And now we will see the Kingambit very close to the back-to-back foul plays. Foul play number 1 is going to be no shielded, looking for the Metal Sound down, but cannot get there. And unfortunately, the Florges is going to be able to take this game for the opponent. Foul play will not knock out here, so the only hope is the opponent trying to no-shield the bait here. Focus Blast does get shielded, and this game is unfortunately over. Catching a Fire Blast almost allowed a win, but unfortunately, it was still not to be. We move to the next match, Palkia against Ho-Oh. So far, we're alternating really good and really bad leads. Opponent is going to safe switch into a Dragon Tail Kyurem, and Kyurem is going to be answered with Kingambit. Kingambit going to be no-shielded the first, as a Fusion Bolt not going to inflict a ton of damage. Kingambit farming up so much energy, going for a foul play bait here. Does the opponent decide to respect it? They do not. And they're going to be able to force a shield from Kingambit. So Kingambit is going to go down a shield just to look to preserve switch advantage. A bit unfortunate that the opponent did call the bait there, but a nice read overall from them. They are just going to take the shield advantage, bring in the Ho-Oh, and Ho-Oh will get chipped with the foul play. Kingambit should hopefully get knocked out here by the Incinerate. No, it barely survives, and that means the opponent gets 2 Incinerates, and they're going to outpace. So being up a shield, being able to land the Brave Bird, this actually looks uncomfortable for Draco. In the back, we are going to see a Tapu Lele, and I think the opponent is going to be able to take this win, as Florges is going to full send the Moonblast, absolutely rocking Tapu Lele. Lele is going to go for a Psyshock bait. The opponent does end up no shielding, just with the confidence that they're going to be able to close out this game. We will see the shield from the Tapu Lele. Tapu Lele still trying to clutch a win here, going for a farm down, but it's not going to happen, and Palkia can't get the farm down either. So the opponent making a really nice bait call in the mid game, no shielding a potential Focus Blast, getting them that ever important shield advantage to take the win. We've got a Battle of Dragons in the next match, leading into a Zygarde. The opponent is going to safe switch out immediately and send in Tapu Lele. Tapu Lele immediately chipped with an Aqua Tail. Oh, they actually shield it, and now they're going to be met with Kingambit. Metal Sound will be hitting for super effective damage. Nature's Madness hitting for strong neutral damage. And Foul Play, of course, will be hitting for neutral. So now Kingambit will get to fire off the Foul Play. Foul Play no shielded by the opponent. They're firing off another charge attack, and we could potentially see a full farm down now from the Kingambit, as Kingambit would ideally like to exit this matchup low and with a ton of energy, and that's exactly what they get to do. In comes Zygarde, and I'm so happy. I get to see a Zygarde be Focus Blasted. Focus Blast is going to connect. Aggressive switch to Tapu Lele, answered with a shiny Shadow Gardevoir. What a flex from the opponent. And now Tapu Lele gets to fire off the Nature's Madness, ramping up this damage more and more and more. And there's just no way for Zygarde to take home the win, so the opponent is going to concede the match. Palkia versus Palkia. And unfortunately, this battler does have the 14 attack Palkia, but it is best buddied, and the opponent's is not best buddied. We see a catch attempt, but amazing patience from the opponent. They're going to send in Keldeo. Keldeo really will not appreciate Nature's Madness, so Keldeo is immediately forced on the defensive, as they will need to commit the shield, and now they can go for the Aqua Jet. Aqua Jet will land. That's going to set up a farm down in 2 poison jabs. Keldeo does exit this matchup pretty healthy. In comes the Palkia. Palkia playing to the CMP tie, but the biggest worry is all that Palkia energy from the opponent. Their Palkia is absolutely loaded, and that energy will be very impactful. Oh no, it's Landorus in the back! And I think this is just an unwinnable game, as Landorus into Kingambit is just an absolutely awful position to be in. Kingambit is going to be spamming out these foul plays, doing what it can in this matchup, but unfortunately, it just doesn't have the damage output anymore. Foul play number 2 can even land, but Sandsear Storm is unfortunately going to be forcing the final shield of Kingambit, and the opponent still has their shield to hide behind. We're going to see a nice switch and a catch onto the Palkia, but I think even this will not be enough to pick up the knockout, as in comes the Palkia, and it's going to get to fire off its energy here. Palkia goes for the Spatial Rend. Kingambit is able to hang on, but unfortunately, while that Landorus is low, it's not low enough, so we will see Landorus hit the field, get the Mudshot down, and take the win. We move to the next match, Palkia leading into a Mewtwo. Well, that's a Pokemon I haven't seen in quite a while. Mewtwo gonna stay in this matchup to start with. Palkia farming up here. We're gonna see a beautiful switch and a catch of the Psystrike onto Tapu Lele, where it's going to be resisted. Psystrike still does a solid amount of damage. Mewtwo going to bank some energy, now sending out Duskmane Necrozma, and so far the opponent is extremely weak to Kingambit. Nature's Madness, the opponent actually ends up shielding early there, so they're looking to preserve a lot of health on that Duskmane. In comes the Palkia, and Palkia now has a decision to make. Palkia decides to protect against a potential outrage, and that proves to be a great call as outrage comes through from the opponent. Palkia continuing the farm here. We are going to see a no shield as Duskmane is going to be firing off energy, but they only went for an Iron Head. They didn't commit, and now they just get fully farmed down. So the opponent opted for a little bit of chip damage, but it ends up costing them in a pretty big way. Back in comes the Mewtwo. Mewtwo able to grab the final shield from the Palkia. Palkia now going to return fire here, going for the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail is going to barely not pick up the KO, but in the back is going to be a Shadow Rhyperior. Unfortunately, Shadow Rhyperior is going to be firing off its energy here. They're going for the Rock Wrecker. It survived, but the Focus Blast cannot be reached. But there is so much energy available on this Palkia. Palkia now at the back-to-back Aqua Tails, which means this Shadow Rhyperior is about to get absolutely deleted. The regular Rhyperior can survive an Aqua Tail. The Shadow one, it's not surviving. And there's just not enough health left on the Mewtwo, so that game will be a win. Moving to the next match, Palkia staring down a miserable lead as the opponent's leading Dialga Origin. A switch in strategy, a safe switch to Kingambit, and that's going to be hard punished with a Landorus. Oh, it looks like the Kingambit actually used a charge TM between the past set and this one, now opting for the harder hitting Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse number 2 is reached, but the opponent is going to fire off the Sandsear Storm, winning charge attack priority. The Sandsear Storm does not knock out. Kingambit survives, and -1 this actually might knock out here. And it does! Kingambit actually flips switch versus a Landorus. I am shocked. Now in comes the Tapu Lele. Tapu Lele is going to be needing to commit the shield here as the opponent will inflict massive damage with an Iron Head otherwise. Tapu Lele now going to go for the Nature's Madness. Nature's Madness will do some nice neutral damage and of course come with that guaranteed defense drop. Tapu Lele can't get the Psyshock. The opponent outpaces due to the energy advantage here. And now Tapu Lele is down 0 shields to 2, but that's basically the perfect Pokemon you can see in the back, a Palkia Origin. You just debuff and switch instantly because this is the least amount of energy they're ever going to have. So now you can get really nice damage with these Dragon Breaths into their -1 defense. Fire off an Aqua Tail. Opponent is going to no shield. They have to Spatial Rend to pick up the knockout, and then basically Tapu Lele gets to Astonish everything down. So in comes the Tapu Lele. Astonishes will be enough to pick up the knockout, and there's just no health remaining on the Dialga, so that game is a win. Palkia into Florges, a pretty bad lead. We are going to see a safe switch into the Tapu Lele. Opponent now going to respond with a Shadow Claw Kyurem. Shadow Claw Kyurem, of course, will be able to hit for super effective damage and is able to outpace here. The Psyshock bait is successful, grabbing a shield from the opponent. Kyurem with a very nice overfarm, and Tapu Lele is just going to let this go. Because if Tapu Lele does end up committing the shield, then Kyurem can just shield back, farm down, and exit with so much energy. We're going to see a no shield from the Palkia. That's going to be a free shock, and that is devastating damage. Now we're going to see the banking of an Aqua Tail and a switch into Kingambit. Kingambit going to try and sweep this endgame, but it's going to be a tall task awaiting it. It looks like I may have gotten these battles out of order as it is back to foul play on Kingambit. one hope here. It's the Focus Blast. It connects. Down goes Rhyperior, but the issue is there's still a very healthy Florges. So even though Rhyperior is gone, Florges can now just go straight Trailblaze and just look to ramp up their damage more and more. There is an Aqua Tail loaded here. So there is an Aqua Tail available on the Palkia for later, but I just think the Fairy Winds are just going to do too much damage. We're going to see the Foul Play fired off by Kingambit. That is going to be shielded by the Florges. Maybe a Focus Blast into an Aqua Tail. Oh, we do see the switch, trying for the CMP sack there, but unable to get the move. And now there's just not enough damage to be able to take this game. That's a bit unfortunate there. Draco doing everything he can in this game, made it as close as he possibly could, but unfortunately, just not quite enough to get the win. All in all, I'm very grateful to the submitter for sending in the battles. That way we get to take an early look at what Kingambit can do when it's fully maxed out and all the way powered up in the Master League. Now, this is something that I do want to try out myself at some point. I do have all the XL candy, so I could build it, but unfortunately, the hiccup for me is the fact that I just don't have one that's worth building for the Master League. I did quite a few Poniard raids while I was getting the raid evolution requirement done for my Ultra League Kingambit, and they all didn't turn out very well. I've done quite a few lucky trades, a few shiny, a few not, and the IVs have just been terrible. So unfortunately, I do generally have very good luck with Shadow IVs, but in this particular instance, I've really struggled with the IVs trying to get a Master League Kingambit. But enough yapping, let's talk about Master League Kingambit. I do think Kingambit is in a position where it would really love a slight improvement in one of its fast moves. I think Metal Sound is a really interesting idea, but Metal Sound at 1.54 is just not a great fast move overall. I do think Metal Sound could really benefit from a little bit of extra damage, similar to what they did with Fairy Wind, where Fairy Wind initially was all about the energy, but they gave it just a little bit of damage to help it out, and that helped a lot of the Fairy Wind mons go from kind of a cope level of success to actually really relevant meta Pokemon. So I would like to see a potential adjustment in Metal Sound, because there are also some very fun Pokemon that have access to Metal Sound currently, like Bronzong. Bronzong, one of my favorite Pokemon, and unfortunately, it's stuck with Confusion, which is, due to power creep, a pretty bad fast move overall. So I would really like to see a Metal Sound buff within the next few seasons, because it could really help a Pokemon like Kingambit have a bit more success, because while Snarl does have good energy generation, I think a Steel fast move overall would make Kingambit feel a little bit better in the Master League. So I really like the decision to run Metal Sound, but he would just really want a little bit better of a Steel fast move. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.